Hi, I'm Yolanda and this is Speak On. You may or may not be familiar with OnlyFans, the site that allows creators to put their content behind a paywall via subscriptions. The use of the site has rocketed this year due to lockdown, but what do we really know about it? Today, I've invited one of my lovely friends, Kash, on to discuss OnlyFans, being a content creator, being an activist, and how all of this intersects with her life. Hello, Kash, how are you?
Hiya, I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Okay, so let's kick off. What would you describe? How would you describe what you do for a living?
I always find this question really difficult to answer because there's so many different aspects to the work that I do, and I would kind of break it into like being a content creator and a speaker. And obviously I create content on social media, on Instagram, on YouTube, and on OnlyFans. I'm also a qualified life coach. I'm a qualified PT, although I don't really do very much fitness stuff anymore. So I also focus a lot on our all round health and wellness. And the way my brain works is all tied in together, right? So like the to me it's like on the micro, like we've got to be working on our own personal development and our relationship with ourselves and our interpersonal relationships with the people in our lives, and I think that interconnects with the bigger picture and like society at large, and like what we are then bringing into the world and society. So that's how for me personal development and working in personal development is very linked to my activism.
Okay, so we'll start off with OnlyFans because that's what people want to talk about it. They want to know about it. What is it?
So as you said, it's a platform where you can create content, and people that want to consume that content can either pay on a monthly subscription, or you can also send out pay for view content on there as well.
Okay, cool. And then how do you use it, and what kind of content do you share?
So my content is definitely like sexual in nature. I would say that I probably fall into the category of, I guess, like erotica, softcore, or like a lot of it's very artistic, and I have like quite a focus on fetish and kink and sexuality as the like wide variety that there is in everyone's individual sexuality, and I sort of like to explore different aspects and elements of that through image, through video, and some of it's just sexy fun, just expressing my sexuality and my sexual energy in a platform that's not going to censor me doing that.
That's fair enough. And how did you get into it?
I had been obviously I've been on social media for like working on social media for 4 years. All throughout those 4 years, well, not 4 years, but since OnlyFans was made, I had people asking me to set up an account, and before OnlyFans existed, I always had people asking me to send them nudes or to sell them content. And I never did. I had my own, my own ideas on it, or like my own, I don't know, like my own discomfort around that.
Yeah.
And social media for me has very much like followed the phases of my life. So I used to be a bodybuilder, and that's what I used to share on social media, and it was very much related to fitness. And then I had a really big health crash and started focusing a lot on my personal development because I believed that it was all sort of linked. And then I took people sort of on that journey. And one of the things that came up in that personal development journey for me was my relationship with sexuality, my relationship with my body, my relationship with slut shame, and like social structures that shame women's sexuality and women's bodies. And as I started doing that work on myself, as always, I felt like this urge to share it in some way with the world, and found that as I did, and as I started talking about sex on Instagram, more and more my images were being censored. I was getting shadow banned, my engagement was going down, and I was like, I'm going to lose my page if I do this. I have to find a way to make it meet in the middle and sort of like work within the system of Instagram to still get my message across without losing my page. And then I made OnlyFans so that I could post that content without censorship, and explore. It's to me, like, it's a really safe space to explore your own sexual energy. You're doing it on your own. And like, for me, definitely, like I say, when I'm delving into kink and fetish, or just different shoots that are styled differently or whatever, it's like I often feel like I step into a persona for that shoot, and I get to express an aspect of myself or an aspect of something that maybe isn't familiar to me, and I get to explore it in the safety of like that setting where it's like me with myself, not necessarily with a partner, particularly when I'm not in a committed relationship. And maybe not going to explore these elements and these aspects with somebody that I'm dating casually, but there's no reason why I can't still explore them within myself, for myself, and then share that with the world in some way.
And that actually sounds like it could be like quite fun, especially with the shoots. So like, how do you plan out that content?
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I really enjoy creating the content. For me, it's a bit of both. Like, sometimes I just self shoot and I do stuff at home, and that sort of like is what I create like between shoots. I also have like quite a few girlfriends that also create on OnlyFans, so we'll often get together and shoot together, shoot each other's content and do a swap like that. And then I have like my bigger shoots that I do usually in London, and those ones I'll put in like a lot more. Like, it's a bigger investment, it's a lot more energy, it's a lot more sort of high production. So like, one of the ones I did recently was a shibari shoot, which is shibari is a westernized term for a bondage fetish that's derived from Japanese rope tying that was originally used in torture, and then it moved from that and it became an art in Japan, and then it came to the Western world, and it now in fetish kink culture they call it shibari. And it's these beautiful rope ties, knots, harnesses, and a really like powerful practice of like power play. And I did a video about it for YouTube, which hasn't been released yet. And I did a shoot of me in shibari for OnlyFans, and I had somebody come and rig me, and I had like a artistic director there, and it was really incredible, really amazing. So those are like my sort of more high end shoots, and often they'll link in with my YouTube. So it's like, if I'm exploring something new or a different element, I'd never done shibari before. There was loads in that shoot that came up for me. I'd never subbed to somebody that I wasn't in a relationship. I'd never subbed to a woman before. Like, those things are like super interesting to do and then discuss on YouTube, and then come out with the artistic and the creative. To me, the OnlyFans side is like, let's just really, sex should also be fun, and it's like sensual and beautiful, and and there should be a connection there, even if it's sharing it with people on the internet. Like, I'm connected to all of the people that subscribe to my OnlyFans, and we talk and we discuss things, and we have like some kind of, there is like an exchange of energy there, that's also interesting. So yeah.
That sounds awesome, because it sounds like so interesting, and it sounds like you're learning a lot through this process. And I love the idea that you're like intersecting, like, here is this content, here is this like amazing, really well produced, incredibly well thought out shoot, and then, which is brilliant in itself, because also you have to think about the fact that in 2020, literally keeping people in jobs by creating content like that. Then you are sharing this content where people are subscribing, and you're managing to talk to these people and have all these connections, and then you get to create a video where you actually are learning yourself, talking about your learning process and educating others about it. Because I was sitting there in silence, because I didn't know anything about that. I was just taking it all in. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope so. Like, for me, like, maybe I'm always like, sometimes I sort of kick myself for always looking for like the deeper level of something, and sometimes it's like, and that's why it's like, so a lot of my self shot stuff on OnlyFans doesn't have any deeper meaning than like, I just feeling sexy today, and I'm going to take some sexy selfies of myself and I'm going to post them up on OnlyFans, do you know? But definitely, like, there is this, for me personally, in my personal journey, the decision to make OnlyFans was like it was a really long process. It was really a process of about 2 years from when I sort of started thinking about it to when I decided to do it. And within that, there was so much of my own personal development behind it, and sort of really unpicking what it was that was holding me back from doing this. And it was, what are other people going to think? What's my family going to think? Like, my mum, like, still, I mean, she supports me because she's a supportive person, but she doesn't love it. Do you know what I mean? And like, that kind of stuff is hard. It's challenging to sort of overcome and to work through. But at the end of the day, it was like, I wanted to do it, and the only thing stopping me was these opinions. And so I had to unpick a lot of that, and my own internalized slut shame and my own fear in terms of my sexuality and my relationship with sex and my relationship with expressing myself as a sexual being without the fear of being stigmatized and being slut shamed. So when I started my OnlyFans, I also I went back into therapy, and very much was like, this is an opportunity to really push my own boundaries in a safe way. And I want to do that with support and actually really take like this learning from this experience, as well as everything else in it. I mean, to me, there's not really much of a downside. It's like I get to express myself creatively and sexually. I'm doing loads of personal development work through the experience, and I'm earning a living from doing it. Do you know what I mean? And a living that I can do from anywhere in the world, which is
it gives you some serious career freedom, which is what a lot of people crave at the end of the day. It's career freedom and the ability to enjoy the job that they're doing as well, not just do something they have to do.
It's also, it's like it gives me, it's like things like my YouTube channel. That is like, I don't make money from YouTube. It's really like a passion project, and I talk about things that I feel like I want to talk about or I want people to know about. And it's like that my YouTube channel is funded by my OnlyFans. And it also means that if I get, invited to do something like today, to speak on this, or speak at an event or whatever, I can do it without the stress of like, how am I going to fit that into my schedule, or can I do something for the love of doing it and not like really need the money from it? Do you know what I mean? It gives me a level of like flexibility where I don't have to turn down things that I want to do because I have to do something different to bring in the money, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And so you talked a little bit about your subscribers, and you kind of have a relationship with them and you speak to them, etc., this back and forth. What kind of people subscribe, and do you just communicate via that platform, or do they tend to follow you on all the other platforms too?
A lot of them do come from other platforms, so they'll find me either on Instagram usually, or on Twitter, or even through my YouTube, because I do talk about OnlyFans on my YouTube channel as well. I do think some people find me through the platform because you come up suggested, and I've also I did an interview with OnlyFans, and I've worked quite closely with them as a company, as a platform as well. They've been really, really supportive and amazing. So I think some people find me through that, but usually these are people that have followed me on social media maybe for years, and so you do like any other social media platform, like you have your main feed where you can post your pictures, and then you've got private messaging, and you can private message with people there. I do actually have a mix of men and women. It is predominantly men, but I do have some women there that may be in the same position of wanting to find that their comfortability in their sexuality as well, and sort of watching me on that journey helps them. I also have lesbian women on there that want to chat to me in the same way that the straight men do, And I also would say that I've got quite a lot of people that are interested in kink and fetish in some way, quite a lot of men that are submissive sexually, and like before I had OnlyFans, I was already like really interested in power play, and had like worked with a few guys as a dom before making OnlyFans, so that was quite like a natural step, and it's definitely where I, in terms of like as when interacting with people and as a work, I really enjoy that aspect of it, and working with people in scenes and in a taking on a dominant role. And I think that also links in so much to my work as a coach. You know, I often feel when I'm working with subs that like I'm really holding a space from the outside. Like if you're not involved in kink and fetish, like there's a lot of stigma around it still, and people just think it's like really odd and weird or whatever. And I think there's also a rise in like sort of like the 50 Shades of Grey kind of like mainstreamized it, and it's really just a whole load of guys that don't really understand what it means but are like, I'm a daddy boss. Being a dom actually comes with a lot of responsibility when you're taking control of a scene, of a situation. You're holding a space for somebody to be incredibly vulnerable in, and you need to do that with respect for them and their boundaries, even if the scene is disrespectful. You know, even if they enjoy and take sexual gratification from being humiliated or being degraded, emasculated, spoken to negatively, it still needs to be that is a scene. That is the play in it, and you need to hold a really safe space for that, where you're also being conscious of like their energy and being responsible for their well-being as well as your own.
That's really interesting that you've linked those. That makes perfect sense, that the skills you have as a life coach and that which makes you really, I suppose, kind of mindful of others and the experience that they're having, like kind of partnered with this, makes perfect sense. And I love that you've kind of connected that there. So do you get lots of people asking you like for advice? As you say, you're kind of going through your own journey. Have you kind of become like not a sex guru, but some kind of like almost like an agony aunt of in this area?
It is often. I actually was really surprised when I started. I have more of that than even people wanting to engage in like sexting or whatever with me. A lot more of it is people having conversations, whether it be on a sort of like general scale of what do you think about this. I get this a lot, like what do you think. Like yesterday somebody asked me, what do you think about the like growing popularity of incest porn, which is like totally like it is growing in popularity. And someone was like, what do you think about this? Like, what's your opinion? Why do you think this is happening? What do you think about it? And I get a lot of questions like that. But I also get a lot of questions that are like maybe things that people are insecure about, sexually. Do you know, like one of the things for like guys is obviously the size of their penis, and like when is it too fast to come? Like, can you come too fast? These are like, I would say, the two big things that men like feel like a lot of pressure around when it comes to having sex. And I think it's been really interesting to understand more of like men's sexual experience and where men really, really do struggle just as much as straight men struggle just as much as straight women do in so many ways in terms of the pressures that they feel, and they don't have the same space to speak about it.
They're not socialized to talk in the same way that we are.
No, and they can't even talk to each other about it because they've got to be like the big. You can't go to your bro and be like, dude, I'm really insecure. I'm like think that I come too quick, or I think my dick's small. Like they can't do that. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like women, we're much more likely to like talk to one another. Like men, if they have a negative or an embarrassing sexual experience, they don't talk to anyone about it. Whereas I was talking about this recently with some of my guy friends, which is another thing. It's brought like all these conversations out into my life in all areas. And I was like, if I had an embarrassing sexual experience, the first thing that I would do is message into the girl chat and be like, girls, oh my God, I can't believe this just happened to me. I'm so embarrassed. Do you know? And when we look at that then on a psychological standpoint and we look at that on a personal development standpoint, shame is absolutely decreased immediately when we are able to share our experience and be met with empathy, compassion, or shared experience. That is part of human nature. And so, you know, even though women are shamed so much for our sexuality, we have a release from it. Whereas men are shamed in a different way, where their sexuality and their sexual prowess is really linked into their masculinity and their self-worth in a different way to women. And they completely internalize it and bottle it up. So I'd like to think that I create a bit of a space for that as well, for men to talk about these things and to sort of say, like, you know, you can talk about this and talk to your partners. And this is what I push so much. I also have people that are maybe trying new things with their partners, like they want to start trying something in terms of a fetish, or they want to have a threesome, and they're like, how can we have a threesome and like keep the communication and make sure that it doesn't get weird, or how do we whatever. And so sometimes it's just guiding people and coaching people on those kind of things that come up. But like very much it's like, it is, at the end of the day, it is what everyone thinks it is. I post pictures of my body on the internet for people to buy and most likely use as sexual aids. Do you know what I mean? That is happening there 100%. And I'm totally comfortable with that, and that is a big aspect of like what I'm doing, and that is absolutely fine, because I still like I feel personally comfortable with that. But I also want it to be the same way that my Instagram is a community. This is a community, and it's a safe space for you to express yourself sexually. As long as everybody's being respectful of me and one another, I'm going to be respectful of them also. Like, that's also something, it's like I'm holding myself to this standard of like respecting you.
Yeah.
And that we all have like a space here to just sort of run free with our sexuality without the stigmas of the outside world.
I love that, because it actually is so positive and it sounds so positive. And so I've got a few questions. Like, one, like kind of roughly what kind of age range are your community actually, or do you even know that? Is that something that people know?
I don't know that. I would say that likewise to my Instagram, I do tend to attract around my sort of age and a bit older. Most of my followers on Instagram are sort of like 25 to 35. It's roughly similar.
Yeah. Okay, and then you also touched on what your mum thinks. So what does how much of your family knows? What do they think? And then has there ever been an issue with partners?
I don't actually know, like I haven't spoken about it with everyone in my family. I would assume that everybody knows, because it's no secret, you know. It's like either like they probably would have seen me talk about it on Instagram, or they would have talked about it with one another. I'm very lucky. My family, like, I come from a very supportive family. I come from a very loving family, and I also come from a really diverse family. So it's just something that like we have we have adapted a culture in my family of like acceptance and like, I guess, awareness and whatever. So it's like, even when it's something that necessarily I'm sure that my mum isn't alone, and that there's other members of my family, particularly in the older generation, that don't really get it and don't really maybe approve of it, or don't really particularly like it and wish I wasn't doing that, or that wasn't what I wanted to be doing. But ultimately they accept me for who I am and love me anyway, do you know? So I think I'm very lucky that in terms of like my generation, my cousins, my cousins are all older than me. I'm the youngest. All of my cousins like think it's great. Like they're like super supportive, and we like discuss very openly with one another, and they're all like hella supportive and think it's awesome. So
would you say that being on OnlyFans is really empowering, and has it empowered you even more? Like, how positive has it been for your life?
Okay, so I think this is like a super commonly asked question, and I think it's one that I like to answer quite mindfully. For me personally, yes, and sometimes no. Sometimes I have come into face with things on there that have made me feel really uncomfortable. I have over pushed my own boundaries of what I'm comfortable with in terms of posting something. I've had my content leaked, my stuff posted out, which like now it doesn't even really upset me anymore, but it used like when I first started, if a topless picture of mine, for example, got leaked to Reddit or Pinterest or whatever, I'd be absolutely mortified at like, what if my family sees this or whatever. And over the months of doing it, I'm just more in a place of acceptance with it, and also like my own mindset around like bodies and everything my own boundaries have changed with it. But you have to be mindful of this, and you have to like do it, like you have to find your own boundaries and respect your own boundaries when you're doing it. I think it's also really important to acknowledge the fact that I made this account when I was 27 years old, and I am 28 years old now. I am very settled into who I am as a person. Of course, we're always changing and evolving, but I have a strong sense of self as somebody older, later in my 20s. I'm not in the prime of my sexual development or figuring out who I am. I also have done 10 years of therapy before this, and I have a level of security in myself and like what I want and who I am in the world. Had I made this, and loads of people say to me, why didn't you do this years ago, Kash? If you've done it now, why didn't you do it all those years ago? That wasn't the right time. And it just was not the right time. And I think that had I done it for the money, which I would have made loads more money had I done it when I had 600,000 followers on Instagram and I was way more relevant on the influencer scene and all the rest of it, I would have made way, way, way more money doing it. There's no doubt about it, but it would have been very damaging to me emotionally because of the headspace that I was in and where I was at in my relationship with sex and my sexuality. So I think it's something that it isn't a one size fits all, and it's something to go into with a level of awareness and respecting your own sexual boundaries. Just as much as we should be respecting other people's sexual boundaries, we need to make sure that we're also aware and respecting our own, particularly if we're doing sex work. And even if you are self-aware, you are probably going to come into, I've had shame spirals, I've had discomfort, I've had times where I really just can't go on the app and I can't engage with it for whatever reason whilst I'm processing something or going through it. And like I can give myself that space. It's also super empowering for me, really good fun, really interesting. And every time I have these shame spirals, I also learn from it and I learn something about myself. So in terms of that aspect, it's great for me. I would not personally recommend it to 18, 19, 20, 21 year olds. I don't think that mentally, and of course technically speaking, at that point you're an adult and you can make your own decisions, but I would be very worried about somebody younger.
I think there's hopefully there's a personal journey or process, obviously, because obviously for a lot of people, sex workers use it, it's necessity, it's the only way they can make money, etc. But I like what you were saying there, you're talked about it very much from the individual point of view, because you're really mindful about the community, the wider community of users. And actually in that, so is there a community of users in terms of, do you guys interact with each other, or is it very much like if they're you know them with your friends? Or...
Yeah, no, it's a really lovely community, I would say. Even before I was working in sex work, I had a lot of friends that worked in the sex industry in one way or another, that were either strippers or burlesque dancers or whatever else, and people that are involved in the fetish and kink community too. And I think as much as it might be seen as these weirdos over there, or maybe we are those weirdos over there, but it's there's a like-mindedness, there's, generally speaking, people are open-minded, socially conscious, very, very in touch with respect, boundaries, consent, because it is fundamental if you're moving in the world of sexuality. So I find a lot of kindred spirits I feel in those communities, both in terms of people that work in the sex industry or people that are involved in kink and fetish in some way. And it's a very it's a welcoming community, and there's something very liberating, and being sometimes being in the fringes can be very liberating. It's I'm already out there in the fringes, so I don't have to fit in to anyone's sort of normal, and so there's loads of really liberated, free souls moving in that world. So I really like that.
In terms of the content, so there's sexual content on there. Are there any creators that produce non-sexual content, or is it all?
It's a platform, and at the end of the day, it can be used for anything. Similarly to Patreon, right? You can post anything on there and put a subscription. There's very much a history that OnlyFans was first picked up and used by sex workers, and that's why the platform has grown from. And it's why it has that that's what comes to mind when you think of OnlyFans. But increasingly it's moving and changing, and people are posting whatever on there. And I think that is going to continue to be the case. I think you're going to start to see more and more on OnlyFans. I think this is actually we're still looking at beginning stages for OnlyFans. I think that this is going to be something that more and more people start to use for different, not only just for different things, but I think it's moving on its way to becoming a social media platform like any other. And I think we're going to start to see brand deals on there. And I think we're starting to see people use it as another social media platform. And we're seeing, I mean, it's getting very gentrified now, to be honest with you. Everyone's got an OnlyFans account, and there isn't really a stigma attached to it. It's much harder. The downside to that is, like you say, there's obviously a lot of people in sex work that are in sex work for the necessity and not having other options, and it's becoming increasingly difficult for people that aren't famous or don't have a high follower account to actually make money on this platform, because celebrities are making them, and not only are celebrities making them, they're also misusing the platform.
And I'm glad you said that, because this takes me really neatly onto Bella Thorne. So for the listeners that don't know, actor Bella Thorne, she joined and she made $2 million in a week and charged people $200 for she wasn't actually, she said it was going to be a naked picture and it wasn't actually naked. So then people started asking for refunds from OnlyFans, and so after that they put a cap on what creators can charge, etc. And like also kind of in the delay of how in the space of time when they get paid. Has this affected you and other people that you know?
Yeah, of course. And I would say, actually, for me personally, I've noticed like it's a lot harder on the platform since she did that. People have lost a level of trust in the platform, and it's just like the more celebrities go onto it, people that really don't need it,
and people that really aren't going to do what they say on the tin necessarily.
No, and it's like these people are already millionaires. Do you know what I mean? It's like they're bringing in like quick, easy money and taking the livelihoods of other people through doing it. It's like it's the same as it's gentrification. Do you know, it's becoming gentrified, and I definitely have noticed a difference on the platform since she did that. And of course, in like the delay in pay, and also, which for me personally doesn't massively affect me, because I just always know that it's like 4 to 5 working days in advance, like before I take money out, and I'm self-employed, so I have all of my money goes into one account and I pay myself a wage. Like that's how I work. But I think as well it's that, like, and even the sort of pay for view being capped at 100, like again for me, like I'm not charging that much for pay for view. Sometimes I'll do a set, which would be more expensive, or I'll do several images, still would not be that expensive for me. What it is, I guess, like for people that are doing, when it is like a custom, that's when you're looking at things that are more expensive, when you're interacting on somebody one-on-one, or if you're interacting with somebody in a sub-dom relationship, that's when you're looking at higher rates of money, and that's where it does make a difference. And I think it's also damaged the platform, right? Because then people are maybe connecting on OnlyFans, but then speaking to people on other platforms and getting paid either directly by drag.
Oh yes, I see. Of course, yeah, like building up their customer base and taking it elsewhere, essentially.
Which of course cuts out their percentage, because OnlyFans takes a percentage of everything that you make.
Okay, that's so interesting. Actually, how many subscribers do you have? I didn't even ask.
I don't actually know how many subscribers I have at the moment, but it goes up and down every month. Like some people stay pretty constantly, and then you also notice it even in like this, like the time of year that it is, or whatever, like around Christmas, interestingly, it seems to like do like more people
are buying themselves Christmas presents.
Yeah, so it's really interesting, because it's my first year, so it's really interesting to sort of like watch the trends and watch what's sort of
is happening, the movement of things. At the beginning of lockdown, did you see a spike?
There was a spike at the beginning of lockdown, for sure. And then I think as as lockdown went on, more and more people were actually getting a bit more sort of concerned, like I guess like in every industry, right? There's like people that are now out of work, or they don't know what their work situation is going to be. And there was sort of like a spike that really leveled out, because then I feel like there was a bit of a drop. And it's also person to person. Like, I know there's always people that are just doing better and better, or have like a low month, and then the next month is fine. It's like anything that's I guess like when you're self-employed or that's subscription based, is going to be a varying to a certain extent.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, that's so interesting to learn more about it. And yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of any other questions I have, but you've gone through everything so eloquently, and you've given so much information.
You asked me earlier about partners, and I didn't answer you. So for me personally, it's not been an issue. I think that it is obviously something that there's going to be, particularly if you're a straight woman, there's going to be a lot of men out there that take issue with it. I regard, like, even before I was doing OnlyFans, like, regardless, like, I'm obviously, like, socially aware and have a level of social consciousness, and look for that in other people that I'm dating. For me personally, even if I wasn't on OnlyFans, I wouldn't really be interested in being in a relationship with somebody that was like shaming of sex workers, because that just doesn't really sit with my personal beliefs or my morals or values. So for me personally, I wouldn't say that it's really like put anybody out of my dating pool that wasn't already out of my dating pool.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
But definitely, like, of course, there's people that would not date me on the basis that I have OnlyFans, but I wouldn't.
Yeah.
And that's fine, because you don't want to date them anyway. So yeah, the process of elimination works quite well.
And it's a great filter, like everything. It was the same when I was bodybuilding, like, and I was very muscular, and it was like, you know, there's guys that aren't going to date you because you're muscular, and it's like, yeah, but like if you're intimidated by a strong woman, literally a physically strong woman, then you're probably not really. So it's like, I think always these things of like, I think as well, particularly like on women, it's like, how are you going to find a husband? How are you?
Because that's the most important thing to us, or otherwise you'll never find a husband, Kash, and then where will you be?
For the benefit of my hypothetical future husband, I have to live my life in a certain way now. And like, so for me personally, it's really no skin off my nose. I think, you know, my guy, if he's out there, is gonna shoot my content for me.
Exactly. It's all about partnership, isn't it? And support. Love that. So I love this. I'm learning all this stuff about you. And obviously I know loads about you anyway, but I'm still learning brand new things. But I see on your YouTube and on Twitter, you talk a lot about social justice. So how do people react to that content? But if they're following you because they're there from OnlyFans, or they think, or they have preconceived notions of you because of OnlyFans, how can they, like, do people reconcile this? Do people act out? Do they think that it's weird that someone who is sexually liberated also gives a shit about things? How do people react to you?
I think one of the most common things is people like calling me a hypocrite, which is like,
I just pulled a face there, no one could see, but yeah, that's so weird. Yeah,
that's like one of this, like, how can you talk about respecting women and then post nudes on the internet? And it's like, because women that post nudes on the internet still worthy of respect. That's kind of the fucking point I'm making, mate.
And it's also, it's like, if you've got such a problem with that, why are you there? They're mostly saying that having looked at your OnlyFans as well.
Yeah, like, it's whatever. Do you know what I mean? I think, like, no matter what you're doing, somebody's gonna chat shit. At the end of the day, like, you're never gonna be understood by everybody. You're never gonna be liked by everybody. And like, for years on social media, I let that get to me, and I also tried to always be one step ahead, and like to sort of guard myself and protect myself from like what people were gonna think and say. And then I just realized I'm pouring so much energy into these people that aren't my fucking target audience. Doesn't matter if you don't like me or if you don't like what I'm saying, then you're not the person that I need to be catering to. The people that I need to be catering to are the people that think like me, or can learn something from me, or I can learn something from them. Do you know what I mean? It's like, at the end of the day, I'm just trying to put my work out into the world. That's important to me. And that's what I'm doing. And like I say it all the time, like, if you don't agree with me, that's fine, we can talk about it. If we can talk about it with respect for one another. I think that we live in such a time of absolute division, where the art of discourse is completely like dead, and it's like we've just scream into a void at each other and nobody listens and nobody's looking. People enter into conversations to win, not to learn. And it's like, and at the end of the day, all that happens is that you fight with somebody and you both leave that conversation exactly the same as you were before, just more pissed
just confirmation bias.
And so it's like, I can talk about things if you're gonna like speak to me respectfully. But if you just hate follow me, then like that's really on you. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't care in it. Like there's certain people that I know that they've got my notifications turned on YouTube to be the first ones to give me a thumb down on every
Which
video.
is wild because they're doing that for free.
Like you're my biggest fan.
It's so weird.
The fact that it is something that people get either annoyed about or can't get their head around is kind of also the point that I'm making. It's like I don't have to fucking choose. My whole life since I was a little girl, I've been made to feel that I have to choose between being intelligent and pretty. I don't have to fucking choose, and I don't have to choose either between being like hypersexual and respectable or professional. It's like I am all of these things. I am like whether you like it or not, and I'm kind of at a point now where it's like I just don't care. I don't care what other people think. Obviously, I'm always open to being checked in my shit and to looking at myself and to, you know, like, I like want to put that on the table. But it's like, if you just hate me because I make money off my body and still have an opinion, like when people are like, don't talk about politics or even like talk about what you know about, do you know what I mean? And it's like, do you know what? You don't have to be a politician to have a political opinion. Actually, every single person needs to have a political opinion. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, it's not, the voters are not the bloody politicians. I don't have to go to university and study politics to actually have an opinion on politics and share my opinion on politics. Everybody should be having opinions on politics.
Politics is everything, and everything is politics. And people that think that people that are in a position where they can sit alongside it and it not bother them are really fucking lucky. They're like, clearly nothing is bothering you and your world is perfect. Good for you. But not everyone else's is.
No, 100%. And it's, I think as well, like, it's an integral part of who I am. And I used to keep it off social media for like my own peace of mind. And then I talked about it for a bit and I had like the lashback of that, you know, I've had like people stalking me and like creating fake profiles, like pretending to be me. And then because one of the things that he didn't like the fact that I talk about racial equality, so then he started posting stuff pretending to be me, talking about like loving black men and like really sexual about black men, like pretending to be me. But there's a whole subcategory of submissive men that fetishize on being not just submissive to a woman but submissive to black men, like cucks that specifically fetishize on cuckolding to white women and black men. And this dude started doing that, and I'm pretty sure that he started getting followed by these people and actually started making money pretending to be me, which was one of the things as well that actually ended up pushing me like fully into working in the sex industry, because I was like, look, people probably already think this is me. Not that I would personally delve into like, I find like for me, like, I'm not looking to kink shame anyone, but for me personally, racial fetishization is like a nope. That I wouldn't that wouldn't be me anyway. But it just made me like realize it's like, well, somebody's like taking the money off it. Somebody that hates me is taking the money off it, and also scamming people. All of these men that paid him money for photos that weren't of me. Like, this guy was probably going into Google and like searching for interracial porn and then just sending them screenshots. Do you know what I mean? Sorry, I'm just
no worries.
Plugging my laptop in. It's gonna die. Like, and then selling those pictures pretending to be me. And I've had those pictures sent to me and I'm like, guys, like, there's tattoos in this photo that I don't have. Like,
oh, bless him. Makes you feel, and also I suppose people can feel embarrassed about being scammed in that arena as well, can't they? So they might not actually say something. So to finish up, what is next for you? Like, have you got any exciting plans or things that are happening on your channels? What should we look forward to in 2021 from Kash?
I'm like adapting, as everyone is, to this pandemic. I was meant to be traveling this year, really. That was like my big plan, and a lot of things were sort of on hold for my year of traveling, which obviously has not happened. But increasingly, like I always for this year was doing more speaking events, which I have been doing online, and hopefully we will do some work there together in the future. And my YouTube channel, like, continuing to do, I have like a really, really cool series that was meant to be going out nowish, really, that has sort of had to be put on hold because of the pandemic and not being able to film with other people. But the Shibari episode that I was speaking about earlier, that will be part of that series. It's a documentary series, just looking at different walks of life and different people, and putting myself into those situations and trying to, like, have the viewers experience it through me. And then I'm also doing a lot more social commentary, because obviously I can do that from my room, and I just raw pictures edit it for me. But I feel I have my little setup, and anything new that happens, I'll always announce it on Instagram. So
brilliant. And talking about Instagram, where would you like to be found? If you'd like to let us know your social channels.
Kash Whiteley on everything, really, and definitely come hit me up on Instagram and subscribe to me on YouTube and OnlyFans.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't forget to plug that. Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me. I've learned so much. So I think this might be one of the podcasts where I've spoken the least, because I was just like, this is just so much knowledge. We're going to have so many more conversations about this. But thank you so much for joining me, Kash, and I hope you have an amazing day.
You too.
Thank you for listening to Speak On. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share with your friends, family, co-workers, strangers in the street. To find out more about us, including our upcoming events, head over to Instagram, instagram.com/speakon_. Bye!